Is menstruation really a curse, or is menstruation something else? Perhaps sacred? What would you say if I told you that menstruation is one of the most sacred of human acts? I believe menstruation is sacred, which is why I've created a menstrual art performance series that really honors and celebrates the sacred power of menstrual blood, including this menstrual art performance, which is called a Ritual Puja for menstruation. But the question is, why is this important? Well, in the Western tradition, dating back to at least the ancient Greeks, and thanks to the likes of Aristotle and Hesiod and many others, women's bodies have been devalued and deemed inferior to male bodies. Thus, women have been believed to be inferior to men. In the medical tradition, menstruation is often pathologized. And in secular life and also religious life, menstruation has often been considered dirty, toxic, impure, inauspicious. So essentially, for millennia, menstrual blood has become a symbol of danger. And this has had real life implications on real life women. Unfortunately, these negative, prejudiced, pejorative, and even dehumanizing depictions of female biology, about menses, and about women has actually been used to justify the control of women and also to devalue our place in society. And so I see this as a big problem because so many women have been enculturated by these dominant paradigms to believe these dehumanizing and negative attitudes about what it means to be a woman, what it means to have a female body, and what it means to menstruate. But the simple truth is that without menstruation, without menstrual blood, the human species couldn't continue. It couldn't perpetuate itself. Menstrual blood is part of the reproduction of the human species. Therefore, I believe that menstruation is one of the most sacred of all aspects of human existence. And though there are some cultures that have, and to a certain extent, revere menstruation and celebrate menarche as a woman stepping into her spiritual and bodily power, it is not nearly enough. I believe that it is time that we as a culture and we as women and others who menstruate as well begin to see menstruation as a source of female bodily power and also as something that is truly extraordinary as well as ordinary, necessary for the maintenance and perpetuation of life, and also therefore something that is sacred. Hi, my name is Dr. Annalisa Durr. I'm a goddess scholar and educator, a Mary Magdalene devotee, a ritual theater performer, and also a period mythologist and artist. Welcome to Journey to the Goddess TV, where I empower women to come home to their embodied female power. Take a journey with me to learn how to go beyond the patriarchal fantasy of what it means to be a woman and instead fall in love with your own authentic womanhood from the inside out. Before we jump into the performance, which will then be followed by some commentary on the backstory and some of the symbols I used, I'm going to give you a few housekeeping notes. First and most important, my performance is in no way an attempt to emulate any existing rituals or pujas that are dedicated to the worship of KAMAKHYA. My performance is merely inspired by KAMAKHYA, the bleeding goddess, and I invoke KAMAKHYA in order to honor menstruation and menstrual fluids as biologically, spiritually, and psychologically, archetypally sacred. Period. In addition, if you'd like more details about some of the points I brought up in the introduction, then go ahead and click this link up here to a video that I made that is a presentation of my doctoral work on the myth of menstrual danger, the historical pathologizing of menstruation, and also my aim to resacralize female blood. And next, I want to give a sincere thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my channel. Thank you so much. And please keep liking videos, please keep commenting, please keep sharing them with like-minded souls. And if you're here now and you're not subscribed, then go ahead and click that subscribe button. And finally, Journey to the Goddess TV truly blossoms with your support. So I invite you to either make a one-time donation to my PayPal account at Journey to the Goddess, and the other option is to become a member through the monthly membership service Patreon, which makes you eligible for behind the scenes footage and different goodies and different levels of access to me. So the links for both of those will also be provided in the YouTube text box. All right, thank you so much, and enjoy this performance, followed by a detailed description of why the menstrual art performance is, and also a little bit about puja and kamakhya. Thank you and enjoy.
Klim, klim, kamakhya, klim, klim, namaha. 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 In chanting the name of Kamakhya, I honor the sacredness of the menstrual body, and in particular, my menstrual body. In chanting the name of Kamakhya, let it remind us that the menstrual cycle as a process is biologically and symbolically life-affirming, beautiful, creative, and healing. May it also remind us that the rich ruby red darkness of her bodily fluids also represent the complexity and sometimes the messiness of life. But it is also a symbol of rich potency, creativity, fecundity, and the passion of life. May her blessing remind us that all women are sacred in body, mind, and soul. So today in consecration, in honor of the menstrual body and my menstrual body, I'm going to take some of this dirt from my natal home and mix it with some of my menstrual fluids. And in doing so, consecrate myself and all women as sacred and beautiful just as we are. Okay, so first Devi, Mary Magdalene here, one of the 1001 names of the goddess, and then me, as both my individual me and also representative of the whole of any woman that wants to accept this puja for menstruation. Klim, klim, kamakhya, klim, klim, namaha. 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 Klim, klim, kamakhya, klim, klim, namaha.
So now let's talk a bit about the background of the story and also the goddess I invoked in my performance. So, in many respects, you could say that my story began in India. When I was in India, I learned a lot of important things about the human divine connection. And in particular, when I was there training in South Indian classical dance back in 2012 in Bangalore, I became really intrigued by the interconnection between ritual and performance that is so evident in these classical dance forms. So many years later, when I developed my Menstrual Art Performance series in conjunction with my artist friend Kate Ryan, hi Kate, I wanted to incorporate my love for ritual and performance and use them in a way that actually resacralized female embodiment and specifically menstruation. So the first piece I created, called Are You Washed in the Blood of Her Holy Womb, was meant as sort of a healing ritual for Mother Earth that combined the elements of menstrual blood and the land that had been charred by the fire, and was actually meant to heal and regenerate the land where I lived in Ventura, California. And so for my second performance, I had this grand or brilliant idea to make a free bleeding performance. And on the day of, I was all getting ready to go do this performance, and suddenly it occurred to me that there might be some ethical considerations that I hadn't been aware of. For example, I would be okay walking around town with bloody pants, but I wasn't quite sure what the implications would be, not of people seeing them, that was kind of the point, but if I sat down somewhere or basically got my menstrual fluids on objects in the public, would I somehow be kind of forcing people to participate in my performance with me without their consent? Is that ethical? And then the other part of me was like, well, but am I just kind of acquiescing to the menstrual concealment paradigm that's already out there teaching women to conceal all evidence of our menses? Again, which I talk about in more detail in my dissertation. And so I couldn't come up with a clear answer. So I scratched that and I needed a new performance very quickly. And so that's when I had the idea to create this menstrual puja to celebrate menstruation. So the next question is, what's a puja? In the Hindu traditions, also known as the Indic traditions, a puja is a honorific ritual or a ceremonial worship that is performed by a priest in a temple or even outside of a temple. It can be performed by any individual inside their home or outside of their home. And it is a special form of worship that is often used to honor a deity. It can be used to honor one human to another human, whether a special guest or child to parent, etc., etc. It can be used to honor an animal, like cows are extremely holy in the Hindu traditions. It can be used to consecrate a space or an event or any kind of object. And my understanding of puja is that the whole kind of worldview around it is that it is a sort of honoring that goes beyond kind of the superficial identities and is really about honoring the sacredness and the sanctity of all life, and all life being human, animals, plants, minerals, the cosmos, the deities, and any kind of other devas and deities that we might not be able to see but just exist in other kind of dimensional realities or psychic realities. So again, it's about honoring the totality of this life force, material and immaterial, in the cosmos. But as far as I know, we don't have a proper equivalent or even have an equivalent at all in the Western tradition, at least not now as I see it, in a way that anybody can participate in puja ritual as a actual giver of the ceremony. Therefore, because of that, I really felt strongly that the puja would be the most appropriate and meaningful way to honor menstruation and menstrual blood and menstruous women as sacred. So now let's move on to the goddess Kamakhya. Who is Kamakhya? First of all, let me start by saying this. In the Hindu traditions, the sacrality and the purity or impurity of menstrual blood, menstruation, menstruous women is very complex, and it's not uniform, and it is well beyond the scope of this conversation. But we are going to talk about KAMAKHYA. So KAMAKHYA is a tantric goddess worshipped in the north of India in the Assam district, and she is known as the bleeding or the menstruating goddess. So let's begin with an origin story. In mythical time, the great goddess, often referred to as Shakti or Devi or Mahadevi, agrees to incarnate in a singular deity form named Sati. In Sally Kempton's book, Awakening Shakti, she says that without the great goddess's presence, Shiva cannot act in the world. He sits on a mountain, lost in meditation, disdaining to perform his cosmic function. This creates havoc in the cosmos. So the great deities, Brahma, the creator, and Vishnu, the sustainer, approach the goddess on their knees. They beg her for the sake of the world to take the form of a woman and lure Shiva out of his yogic trance. Daksha, a mind-born son of Brahma, will be her father. The goddess agrees, but only on one condition. She has seen that men and gods have begun to treat women as property, lesser creatures in the cosmic hierarchy. So the goddess says, "If I agree to become your daughter," she tells Daksha, "you must promise to honor me as the great goddess. If you do not, I shall instantly leave my body, for I will know that the time is not yet right for me to act fully in the world." Though Daksha agrees, we can all guess how that turned out. Now, there are many versions to this story, but essentially the core idea is this. Daksha breaks his promise, and Sati becomes enraged as she feels like he has ultimately betrayed her request. So, at this event that he's thrown, in which he's completely snubbed her and Shiva, she shows up, she throws herself onto the burning pyre, and she leaves her body, just as she promises she would. And so when Shiva finds out, he becomes so aggrieved that he grabs her corpse and he starts traveling through all of the worlds of the cosmos. This created so much cosmic havoc that the other gods were afraid of what might happen. So they devise a plan to cut up Sati's corpse. And in doing so, 51 pieces of her body fall from the skies and land in different places on the earth, all of them in what is today modern India. And these are known as Shakti's Pittas. So this is where KAMAKHYA comes into the picture, because KAMAKHYA is the representation of the Shakti Pitta, that is the yoni, that is the womb vulva of the great goddess. And the amazing thing is that KAMAKHYA's name really reflects the great awesomeness of female womb power. Neelam Kakati writes, "The name KAMAKHYA consists of 3 altruistic words. Ka, Mai, Ka. Ka means a sign of the female sex. Mai means mother, and Ka means to give birth, i.e. KAMAKHYA means the place where the mother gives birth, or the sign of the mother's yoni through which she has given birth." And I believe that the great awesome power of KAMAKHYA's yoni is pretty evident in this image here of this KAMAKHYA statue covered in red powder. Her vulva is completely exposed, dripping with this signs of menstrual fluids. So the sacredness of KAMAKHYA's yoni is really evident in this tantric worship. Now, we don't really have an equivalent in our monotheistic traditions or even in our secular life. But I will say there's a little caveat here. When I look at images, especially of Mother Mary ensconced in this mandorla, this almond-shaped vulva, that to me evokes that vulvic imagery and that sacred power, yoni power. So now that we have a sense of the sacredness inherent to KAMAKHYA's name and KAMAKHYA worship, and also the yoni itself, I think it's worth looking at some of our English parallels. So first of all, as Uma Dinsmore Tooley and others have shown us, the most equivalent word to yoni in the English language is actually the C word, C-U-N-T. And the reasons I'm not saying it out loud are because I'm not sure if this is censorship worthy in the YouTube world. So this word in the English language is actually etymologically related to other words that evoke the meaning of kindness, wisdom, deep inner knowing, and birth limbs. So it's very evident that this word, even though it has a derogatory nature to it today, but funny enough, right, it refers to female genitalia, actually refers to the most sacred part of the female body. And then second, the other word I want to look at is actually matrix. And I have just a bone to pick about this one anyway. So this is a Latin word, and it actually means uterus or womb, and can also mean source or origin. And it is etymologically related to the word for mother, mater, and it is also in a sense related to Mother Earth in the word material, material being the Mother Earth, the material world. So in my view, matrix also implies the sacredness of the female body. Unfortunately, matrix also has negative connotations in our modern vernacular. And so I think it's worth investigating, or at least considering, why these words that pertain to female biology, and in particular, the part of our biology that perpetuates the human species, again, the most sacred and most powerful location inside a woman's body, why these words have a derogatory meaning today. I'm not going to answer that, but it's worth all of us thinking about and considering. And finally, what does menstrual blood have to do with it? Well, I've already given a few indications, but let me go into this a little bit more deeply now. So every June in the district of Assam, India, at the KAMAKHYA temple, there is a festival called Ambuvaki, which celebrates the menstrual flow of the goddess. Frederick Apffel-Marglin and Julia A. Jean state that at this time, the central temples remain closed for 3 days, which is meant to mirror the 3 days in which women are generally in menstrual seclusion during the 3 heaviest days of the menstrual cycle. And due to natural causes, the water that runs over what is considered the goddess's yoni actually turns red for 3 days. And this is believed by some to be linked to the regenerative processes of the earth herself. And so this next part is very important. Apffel-Marglin and Jean believe that underlying this festival is an inherent belief in the interconnectedness of the procreative and the generative powers of women, the earth, and the cosmic great goddess. What we get then is a sense of how holy KAMAKHYA's temple is as a site of worship for the generative powers of life, of all life really, the sanctity of all life with a capital L. And also how the worship of menstrual fluids is actually intrinsic to the worship of this goddess. And finally, I'm going to end this section with a quote. In Weaving the Cosmos, Apffel-Marglin and Jean state, "KAMAKHYA's menstrual blood, pieces of menstrual cloth, fruit, flowers, and small packets of vermilion powder, cinder, that are taken away at the end of Ambuvaki, and sometimes even after darshan at non-festival times, are divine offerings. People use them in a variety of ways, including to increase the potency of their spiritual practice, also known as sadhana. As one young priest told Jean, menstrual blood is the main Shakti generated during Ambuvaki. It is Shakti. KAMAKHYA is the mother of the universe, and her blood is discharging at that time, and it is powerful." This points to the theme of generating Shakti, or the life force energy, which is common to tantric practice through embodied practices that focus on the goddess's yoni. As you can imagine, KAMAKHYA has been a great inspiration in my mission, in my life's journey to resacralize menstrual blood and the female body. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. As a reminder, please like this video, please leave a comment, and please subscribe. And until next time, ciao.